Good morning. How are you doing? Very good. Thank you.
So you did finalize.
We did finalize. I can't remember.
Was it the envelope first and the rest?
No.
You secure the envelope, and then you decide to use no penetration for HVAC. All of a sudden, there's so much deterioration on the brick, you have to take the window out, but you just fixed on the outside. Change order, change order.
Yeah, so we're gonna do the whole darn thing. I'm gonna enter into negotiations and hopefully first meeting in May, we can get a bond contract. So, but yeah, so we did finalize it yesterday. And they are using a lot of local vendors. They're out of, I think Sarasota. Well, they have a local Banks Engineering, I think is their engineer, and the same company that does our ADA transition plan is also on the team, so. Yeah, yeah, and I can answer anything that might come from it. Okay, so this will be ready to go whenever.
You just show up there and hand something to you.
Pretty much. It's funny you say that, because I pulled in line last weekend and I had drink here in the door, and we were going down to the shop. And I ordered a couple things, and I said, okay, anything else? And then when I ordered my coffee, he said, oh, hi, I didn't know it was you. And a combination of sweet and low and creamer. Evidently unique.
Yeah, this is my new Starbucks one.
The mics are not live yet, but if anybody's in the audience with a cell phone, please put it on silent before we begin. We'll start in about 2 minutes. Thank you.
I have to go outside and look at the sunshine, and I'll stand there like a sweat for Not even.
I think they're like now. Now they are, yeah.
I told your guy, maybe that email that they were gonna come out and that's about the, his boss called me yesterday, extremely apologetic, and that's.
Good morning. It's 9 o'clock, and I'd like to welcome everyone to the April 7th, 2021 City Council and Community Development Redevelopment Agency meeting. Let the record reflect that all city council members and city officials are present or in the building. If you would please stand and join us for the pledge, the invocation followed by the pledge.
Shall we pray? Heavenly Father, you've brought us to the beginning of a new day. We ask that you renew our hearts with your strength and your purpose. Forgive our errors of yesterday. Help each one of us to walk closer in your ways today. Shine through us so every person we meet may feel your presence in our soul. Take our hand because we cannot make it on our own. Lord, we also ask that all the decisions that are made in this chamber today be a blessing to you and the people of Punta Gorda. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Carlo. Okay, we'll begin this morning with public comments. If there's anyone in the audience that wishes to address the council on any matters related to the council agenda, please come to the podium, state your name, and you have 3 minutes.
Good morning, Kenley George, PGI. I'm not really here for anything on the agenda today. I'm just here to speak on a comment that was made at the last city council meeting when someone mentioned, what about people that refuse to get vaccinated? I would like for you guys, next time Dr. Pepe is here, to ask him, how come no one's talking about people that have already had COVID? You do not need a vaccination. You're naturally immune. I mean, same thing goes for the chickenpox. If you've had the chickenpox, you do not need a chickenpox vaccine. I am by no means anti-vax, but no one is talking about if you have already had COVID, you do not need a vaccine. So I hope that's something that you can bring up. Also, can you ask him what the IFR is, the infection fatality ratio for COVID-19 is? It's 0.15, which is the same as the seasonal flu. I've tried to contact him. I can't find any contact information for Dr. Pepe, but I do applaud his response when brought up with the forced vaccination, that he said people should be able to make up their own decision based on their own health history. Also, another thing, people that have autoimmune disorders, for example, ALS, it runs in my family, people that get vaccines or even a seasonal flu shot, that can trigger autoimmune disorders. So vaccinations are not for everyone, okay? Thank you, I appreciate everyone's time. Hope you all have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Larry Larson, and I'm one of the board members at Park Hill, which is at 10101 Burnt Store Road in Punta Gorda. We were fortunate a number of years ago to join the city. It was an opportunity, and we have never looked back and have felt it's been tremendous. And I'd like to thank those of you that were part of that, especially Nancy, who went to bat for us so many times. It's been a blessing. We've worked with the parks around us, too, to try to quell some of their concerns. I'm here today specifically just to address an issue that's been extremely, extremely major in our communities of River Haven, Park Hill, and Eagle Point. This year, coming down after 15 years and being a part of the activity on the road, if you're not aware of it, that there's only one major sand company or dirt company in the area. It's out on 17, so all the dump trucks come in the direction into Punta Gorda, and then they go down Burnt Store Road. It is impossible for us to communicate or be anywhere outside or meeting, and those homes there are basically, the people are so concerned talking about moving out. All our 4 or 5 slots next to the road, people have left that have come down for years. And it's basically the dump trucks that make the noise, and the concern is the speed and possibly rerouting. We've talked to the county, and we know that's not your jurisdiction, but we are in a situation where we're meeting with them, and they've been cooperative. Your police department has been cooperative with, doing preventative things on the road there. But it is a major, major issue, and it won't get better when the road's done. We're told because of all the construction down in Cape Coral and North Fort Myers, these trucks are going to keep coming. So it just like, we'll leave a copy of a letter that we gave to Greg with about 500 signatures on. We've also met with Robert Faculty with the county, and he's working on that. But thank you. You've been great to work with. I've been a part of a lot of organizations with councils and things like that, and no one has been more receptive than your offices in your community. So thank you very much. I'll leave maybe these with Greg, and he can give them a copy.
No, have
Thank
my email also.
Okay. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you and welcome. We're glad to have you in the community. Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to address the council? Okay, seeing no one coming forward. Mr. Murray, I believe you have one letter.
I do. It's one email with 2 attachments. This is from Mr. Tom Cavanaugh regarding House Bill 55 and Senate Bill 284, SB 284. Just for the record, first on SB 284, dear Senator Perry, some 16 years ago, after Hurricane Charlie devastated the city of Punta Gorda, a group of citizens organized under the name Team Punta Gorda and under the guidance of professional planners and support from the community created the Citizens Master Plan 2005. It was a guide to rebuilding the city and it included building design elements desired by the community, which were subsequently codified into city building code. The city has engaged a firm to further redefine those design elements, and these two, based on sufficient community consensus and council approval, will be codified into the city code. The city of Punta Gorda takes great pride in the way it looks. SB 284, if approved, would change that and remove the ability of our city to shape our future. I urge you to reconsider your support for the bill and allow our city to continue its engagement with the community to continue to determine how we look. Respectfully, Tom Cavanaugh, former city council member, with copies. And then on House Bill 55, subsequently, this is Jill Lombardo, Representative Jill Lombardo, same letter, same content, just substituting the House Bill 55 for Senate Bill 284.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And just for the record, council members, you've all received already 2 of the letters that were sent to the legislature per our last discussion 3 weeks ago. The third one, I've held back on sending it because it is stalled in the House, in one of the subcommittees in the House, so there is no urgency to send it, and I'm waiting to see what revised verbiage may need to be put in it based on what changes may occur between now and whenever they put it back on the agenda for the next committee meeting. So, but we did file a letter with the state legislature for the home-based businesses and the building design standards. So that's been registered with the state. Okay. Okay, before we adjourn as Community Redevelopment Agency, if there are any board or committee nominees that would like to introduce themselves to the council, please come forward to the podium and introduce yourself. Oh, God. I'm not here.
Good morning. I'm Ian Milne, and I'm a candidate for the Burnt Store Isle Canal Advisory Committee. And I'm excited about the opportunity to serve on the committee for many reasons, not the least of which is that I really enjoy being around the water. My wife Maggie and I have lived in Burnt Store Isles for 8 years, but before we came to Punta Gorda, we lived on our sailboat in South America and the Caribbean for 7 years. So we really like being around the water. We're active with the Seven Seas Cruising Association, the Burnt Store Isles Boat Club, and I hold a U.S. Coast Guard 50-ton master's certificate. I also like being involved with the community. In 2016, I became the vice president for the Burnt Store Isles Board of Directors. I served as its president from 2017 to 2019. And I continue to be involved with them, but only as the immediate past president. So sitting on the canal committee would allow me to continue my involvement with the community and hopefully ensure that our waterways are safe and enjoyable for the rest of our residents. So thank you for your consideration. Anything for me before I put on my mask?
No, thank you, and thank you for your willingness to serve.
Thank you for
Thank
being
you.
Appreciate it. Is there anyone else that would like to introduce themselves?
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Lucille Ponte. I'm a recent resident. My husband and I moved here in May of 2020, just in time for a global pandemic. So we're really happy now that things are sort of coming back together. We can be involved in the community. I've been a legal educator for over 30 years. I just retired last year. And I look forward to an opportunity to help to educate on the Historic Preservation Advisory Board, and the role would be as an alternate. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else? Okay, and my apologies, I skipped over the proclamations. We do have 2 official proclamations this morning, and as per the rules that we had discussed a couple of council meetings back, our current procedure is to do one outside proclamation and one inside proclamation as it pertains to city staff. There are also several other proclamations that are under the consent agenda. So do we want to talk about that right now, or do we want to wait until the consent agenda? How do you all feel about it? Does anyone have any issues with reading all the proclamations into the record? Nancy?
I don't have any problem with that. I think we decided as a council before that we would just put them in. So I think it's something we need to discuss. If we don't want to just put them in the consent agenda, then we need to come up with a way, I think that a way to do it that makes sense. We had decided that we only wanted to limit the audience because sometimes we get quite a few people showing up for the actual presentation of a proclamation.
Right.
So if we were going to change it, then we need to, I would support us continuing with the limitation on what we officially present. But if we wanted to have a reading into the record, then maybe we need to have a separate agenda item that would just be reading proclamations into the record.
Rather than consent?
Yeah, the idea of a consent agenda is really to just put things on there that you're just going to approve as a block.
Right.
And not to take up council time. It's really to help speed up the council. So if we are going to put them in the consent agenda and then pull them every time and read them, then we're defeating the purpose of the consent agenda.
Right. Okay,
So I
understood.
think we need to decide how we want to handle it.
Anyone have comments? John?
It seems now, as a number of people have said, and I agree, that we're slowly moving out of the COVID issue. And that was the main issue, main problem of having them in, of only having two or one at a time. I think we can still deal with it and read them all if we only allow a certain number of people per proclamation to come into the room at the time of the proclamation, and then otherwise stay outside of the room until it's.
I would have no problem with that. Jaha?
I think also, due to the fact that this is being televised, that, I mean, there are people watching, so I think that reading them is something that would be good.
Okay. All right, so.
My only question then is the people who were in the consent agenda today, are we treating them fairly if we change the rules in the middle of the game and they're the ones that don't get to receive their proclamation?
Well, they're all going to receive their
But I
proclamation.
meant in
but
public
not
and
here,
get-
yeah. The one for the Military Heritage Museum, I am presenting on Saturday morning to them, so that
Okay.
one is taken care of. The Donate Life Month and Water Conservation, I believe Karen had arranged a way to get those proclamations to those people, but, I mean, I'll go with whatever the consensus is. I can go either direction.
Well, my suggestion I was making was somewhat in keeping with our original intent
Okay.
of limiting the number of people that would be at a council meeting. And we had said it was first come, first serve on an external as well as internal. So we're happy to read them so that the public knows what they're, although they're all on our agenda package. So anyone who's looking at the agenda can see what they are. So we're giving them, due recognition. I'm willing to go either way.
Okay, so how about a show of hands for anyone who thinks we should read them into the record at the meetings? Okay. Those who are opposed to that, you don't care either way?
Yeah.
All right, so we'll read them when it comes to consent. I'll pull them and then I'll read them in the record. And then we can decide if we want to change things going forward. I agree with keeping a limit on the number of people that can be present to receive any of the proclamations. We're still in COVID procedures in the chamber, so I wouldn't want to start seeing 50 people showing up to receive a proclamation, so.
May I make a suggestion then? In the future, we have proclamations to be presented as an agenda item, and then proclamations just to be read into the record, and put both of them at the beginning of the meeting. And that way then, it's easy, it has nothing to do with the consent agenda. And
That's
we've
fine.
distinguished between the two.
Sure, that's fine with me. Everybody okay with that? Okay. All right, so the first proclamation is for Parliamentary Law Month. Proclamation for the City of Punta Gorda, Florida. Whereas since April is the birth month of Thomas Jefferson, who wrote the first American Manual of Parliamentary Practice in 1801, it is an appropriate time to honor him and celebrate the use of parliamentary procedure. And whereas it is also fitting to honor Henry Martin Robert, author of Pocket Manual of Rules of Order for Deliberate Assemblies, also known as Robert's Rules of Order. And whereas Robert's Rules of Order, newly revised, is the most widely recognized and used parliamentary authority in public and private organizations. And whereas it is timely to reflect upon the importance of parliamentary procedure in providing for civil discourse, protecting individual rights, ensuring fairness, and in maintaining order. And whereas the National Association of Parliamentarians is a professional society dedicated to educating leaders throughout the world in effective meeting management through the use of parliamentary procedure, and their vision is to provide parliamentary leadership to the world. And whereas the National Association of Parliamentarians has, by adoption of a standing rule, designated the month of April as Parliamentary Law Month. Now therefore, the City Council of the City of Punta Gorda, Florida, does hereby proclaim the month of April 2021 as Parliamentary Law Month, passed and duly adopted this 7th day of April 2021. Signed, Lynn Matthews, Mayor. And accepting will be Louis Rivera and Joyce Gleason. If you please come forward. Okay. There you are. Thank you. And you have, if you'd like to make a couple comments, feel free. At the podium, please, yeah.
We have to make sure we do this right, because I'm sure you're well versed. Robert's rules.
Good morning, my name is Louis Rivera. I'm the new president of Charlotte County Parliamentarian Unit. We're proud to be the Merit, which is the best teaching unit in the country. Joyce, you have anything to say? No? Please. Okay. Thank you for this proclamation. We will have to file it at this point, but thank you very much.
Thank you.
Keep it short.
Thank you. And next, we have a proclamation for National Telecommunications Week, and Councilmember Prefke. You're up.
It's my pleasure and honor to do this, and when I read this, the word telecommunicators is in the proclamation. I just want to make a clarification to those that are watching, that when we say telecommunicators here, we're referring to our dispatch operation.
Yes.
And the dispatch center, and that's where everything starts. That's really where the heartbeat begins in our public safety. And so, as opposed to telecommunications, which was the career that I had, which had nothing to do with the dispatch operations. So I just want to make a clarification. So proclamation, City of Punta Gorda. Whereas emergencies can occur at any time that require police, fire, or emergency medical services. And whereas, when an emergency occurs, the prompt response of police officers, firefighters, and paramedics is critical to the protection of life and preservation of property. And whereas, the safety of our police officers and firefighters is dependent upon the quality and accuracy of the information obtained from the citizens who telephone the Punta Gorda Police Communications Center. And whereas, public safety telecommunicators are the first and most critical contact our citizens have with emergency services. And whereas, telecommunicators are the vital link for monitoring police officer and firefighter activities by radio, providing them information and ensuring their safety. And whereas, they contribute substantially to the apprehension of criminals, suppression of fires, and treatment of patients. And whereas, they exhibit compassion, understanding, and professionalism during the performance of their jobs. And whereas, in fiscal year 2020, Punta Gorda's telecommunicators answered 670 administrative phone calls, and 8,298 911 emergency calls, contributing to a police officer average response time of 5 minutes and 26 seconds for all calls. Now therefore, the City Council of the City of Punta Gorda, Florida, does hereby proclaim the week of April 11 through 17, 2021 as National Telecommunications Week, and does hereby honor all of the men and women whose diligence and professionalism keep our city and citizens safe. Passed and duly adopted in regular session the 7th day of April 2021, City of Punta Gorda, Florida. Signed, Lynn Matthews, Mayor, and accepting will be Chief Pam Davis.
Thank you very much.
You are welcome.
Good morning, everybody. Chief Pam Davis, Punta Gorda Police Department, and I want to thank the City Council once again for recognizing our telecommunicators. We've changed that to public safety dispatcher because it's a little easier to say, so, and it makes more sense. Like you said, these are having this gives us a chance, because next week is telecommunicators, Public Safety Telecommunicators Week, and it gives us the chance to recognize our unsung heroes. And they're the unsung heroes of our department, and they're the unsung heroes of our city, because they are that first line. They are the lifeline for our officers, the lifeline for our fire personnel, and the lifeline for our citizens. And really how they handle the call that comes in can affect how our officers handle the call and how our fire personnel handle the call. We have 9 public safety dispatchers, 1 senior public safety dispatcher, and 1 supervisor, which is, you all know, Audrey Dennis. And they do a lot of work. It's a lot of multitasking. Imagine there's 2 of you there, and you're answering the non-emergency line, then the 911 call comes in, and then you're dispatching to a fire personnel or an officer, and you're trying to listen and monitor all that. It's a lot of work. They are outstanding people, and you touched on a couple statistics, and if you don't mind, I'll just quickly talk a little bit about that. 2020, they answered 32,670 police administrative calls and 8,298 911 calls, and it was a little over what we did in 2019, so it was about 600 more, and that was during the COVID time. They also processed or monitored 51,794 police events. So that means they're either dispatching to us or they're keeping track of where the officers are. Of those events, 12,721 were calls for service that were dispatched to patrol, which was 2,000 more than 2019. So, you know, I mean, it was a busy year for not only the officers, but for the dispatchers. And they processed over 3,836 fire events. So all during 2020. Very, very busy year, and we have a very professional group of people, and can't say enough about them. Very pleased to be able to recognize them, and we'll present this to them next week. So thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, we will adjourn as the City Council and reconvene as the Community Redevelopment Agency. You ready?
Thank you very much. We have a lot of activity going on in the CRA this past month and ongoing, so we're pleased to summarize some of the major projects as we work through the project list and the Marina activity. We'll start with the Municipal Marina activity, which you can see year over year. We had it up there. Let's see if we can get this to go again. If I'm doing 3 things at once, and if I had to chew bubble gum, I'd be in trouble now. Year over year, the annual, you can see March to March was essentially the same. The semi-annual, when we look for the month, generally we had some additional moorings. We had the same commercial. And when we get to really the pump out vessel comparison, because we're having 4 full slips for city, county, state, and then of course our work boat and our pump out boat. So we have those slips that are fully occupied now, and we're running a lot out of there. If you watch coming in 17, every time you see one of the county trucks come in, which I pay attention to when they cross the city line, I know they're going to the Marina. So one of the boats is going out for a call or supporting one of the calls we have. So we see that quite frequently. But when we look at the pump out vessel report, you can see that March 21 substantially more, 139 versus 120, and even last month only 103. Of that, we had 122 Florida vessels. We pumped 2,685 gallons, so almost 2,700 gallons in upwards of 200 miles. So we had a very busy month on the water for the marina and marina activity. So that's really an indicator of the change in season, some of the weather patterns that we're seeing. So we expect activity to continue to pick up. Of course, we look at our quarterly reporting. That's the standard reporting that we provide to show that we're good stewards of the money and that we're spending the money as designated. We had maintenance costs generally of $28.40 for our pump out vessels, and of course we do that at no charge so that we can help protect the water quality in the harbor and provide that service to people that are in the marina and mooring fields. When we look at our projects, Harborwalk 2, this is one of many we've been certainly working on. Urban Design's been doing a lot of work to bring this to fruition. You saw the 90% plans and some of the costs associated with that. We're now waiting on the 100% plans to come back in so that we can get that out and get that project started. Hopefully we'll have that started now in the season where we have less use. So of course it'll extend into next year, but when you have a project that's over a 12-month period, there's no way to avoid a season because it's going to extend throughout the year. But we'll be glad to get that moving and get that completed. And we'll try to get a lot of the work that impedes traffic most done when there's the least amount of traffic. We look at Veterans Park Phase 2. Of course, we have several of the plaques that are now installed. The 100 memorial bricks identified for replacement, we have those ready to be re-engraved so that they can be replaced. Staff is working to procure the re-engraving services. We're at the end of that process now, and we're actually getting ready to install the Purple Heart bricks. The Purple Heart bricks are all from one manufacturer, and they have the same green and the same color specifically from that manufacturer. So we're going to be making sure we get bricks from them to match the Purple Heart installation, and then we'll be working on the main section of bricks to install them, including ones that have to be re-engraved in front of course, the mural area where the benches are, and it's going to make a very beautiful tribute in the Veterans Park for the replacement of the memorial bricks. That'll be very nice. When we look at Laishley Playground area, of course, 4-5 was Monday, meeting with the engineer of record. That is spelled out, engineer of record, so everyone that's watching can see what that is. And they discussed the 60% comments, and of course we did include the recommendation to include some type of bucket mechanism there, so that we're also going to have tie-down straps, so if it's a dumping bucket, it won't wash anyone away.
The Bill Driver Memorial Bucket.
Yes.
Bill's bucket list.
Yeah.
Is Bill going to be the first one to get dumped on?
Yes. I think we should do
we need to
do a
have
ribbon
that.
cutting for that.
That'll be a fundraiser.
Did you say put a
That's a
sign
good
on it
idea,
that says
actually.
Bill's Bucket? Is that what you said? So we are talking about that, and of course, when we get some of the cost back, then we'll see how far we can go on the other amenities in the park and bring that to you so that we can also get that project moving and finished. Wayfinding Signage, 90% plans, of course, we're waiting for the permit approval from FDOT. Once we have that in hand, incorporated into the drawings, then we'll get that on the street and get that completed also. So we're anxious to get that moving. Historic City Hall restoration, we had, of course, 8 responsive bidders, well, 8 bidders, 7 were deemed responsive. They did have presentations yesterday for 3 out of the 4, one had pulled out. They have now identified who they feel will be the most responsive and who will be awarding it to. I don't have that name at the tip of my tongue, but out of the 7, but it is someone that's using more of the local engineering support for their subcontractors, including some that have worked on our ADA plan and are familiar with city government. So their concept is do the project as one project, get it designed, and get the project complete. So we're pretty happy with the way those presentations went, and you'll be hearing more about the selected architect and cost in the next 30 days so we can get that project moving. AC Freeman House Rehabilitation, again, staff last week met with the consultant to refine the proposal. We're going to, in the next 30 days, be awarding that also, get the design complete, get that on the street, and get some work done so that we can get that facility back in operation again. Neighborhood Historic Initiative, Florida Power and Light, FPL, will be installing the 71 LED lights to replace the current lighting, and then they'll be adding 30 new fixtures. That should be complete by the end of April. There's several things significant about that, not just the new, more efficient lighting, but the way that lighting is directed so that we don't have as much light pollution that we can see above several of the older type fixtures. And of course, with the new LED lights, we'll be also able to enhance the character of the historic district. The other thing regarding lighting we are doing, as you know, we talked about adding some lighting from Berry up to the bridge crossing at Fisherman's Village, and we, starting at Fisherman's Village down with the spacing of about 110 feet, we're able to go down to where the decorative lighting already is. There's 2 sections of decorative lighting and one past that gets us down close to the first street light. It doesn't take it the whole way to Berry Street, but it will illuminate a substantial portion of that. And once we get that complete, we'll see if anything else is needed. If it is, we can do a small change order to the project later on and add that little section from Berry up to where the lighting will exist. So our Public Works Department has done a great job at trying to identify what we can do there and how we can move that forward and get that completed. So you'll see some work done on that in the very near future. Herald Court Center. Again, through urban design and our Public Works Department, we've had a lot of work done there to replace the complete fixtures at Herald Court Center. Many of those were out and unrepairable, and of course, to replace them, you had fixtures that would have looked differently because we couldn't get the exact replacement for them. So we've been able to contract to replace all the fixtures. They're nice and bright in the evening now. We've had a lot of compliments from the tenants on how they appreciate the fact that all that's been done and the look that we've retained at Herald Court Center. So we're pleased that that's been accomplished. We do have in the old subway space, former subway space, we of course had some equipment there that was very beneficial for a new tenant, and we have a 5-year lease for a fresh cuisine type eatery there, specializing in poke bowls and some of the healthy alternatives, which makes it more of a destination and walking area, so that we are pleased to say they'll be in there in the near future and add that amenity to the Herald Court Center. That'll be very nice. One thing we'd like to just mention in that regard is we've had some comments from existing tenants and the new that right now, especially with COVID, there's been a lot of people that use Grubhub and the different things. And when they pull up outside Herald Court Center, there's really nowhere to pull up because you're on the main street. And if they go up in the parking garage over near the stairwell, that stair tower that comes down to those general areas, they either end up, parking along the air conditioners or parking in motorcycle-only parking, or, whatever the case may be. And we think it would probably be prudent if no one has an issue with it to designate 2 spaces that are just pick up and delivery. So if someone wants to pick up food down there, they can park, run down the stairs, pick it up and go back to their car. Or if Grubhub, if it's a delivery situation, they have somewhere that they can actually designate as that, and it'll help out the small businesses as well as the delivery drivers that aren't forced to violate something because they're trying to get close and back quickly before, you know, pizza gets cold. Not in this case, but, you know, whatever the case may be. So,
Greg, question, how many spaces are you talking about?
we had thought 2 spaces, because they're, you know, they come and go quickly. So with 2 spaces, you can have some alternating there. And
Seems reasonable.
that side of the garage certainly is underutilized at this point, so I think that would probably be of benefit.
So has the lease been signed?
The lease is in the final throes of being signed and may even be yet this week.
So we're very close to being back at 100%.
Not really.
Oh,
Well, you have the Florida Gulf Coast.
oh, that's
so,
right.
Yeah, yeah.
But we have, you know, plans for that space too, which would make it 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, yes, so, I mean, all the leased out spaces will be, again, active. So, and, you know, we have full price lease on that, so, we're, very comfortable and, you know, welcome the addition to the subway space. But, I'm sorry, back to the, 2 spots that we talked about. Does that seem reasonable and
Yes, very
Yep.
much.
sufficient?
As long as we can somehow police it to make sure that people aren't parking there just because they can.
Yep, yeah, it's not for permanent, there are other spaces for that, it's for the pickup delivery.
Yes, but I've seen a Corvette parked in a motorcycle space in there.
Yep,
One comment, since you're on Herald Court Center, I know we've received a couple of emails from people about squealing tires in the Herald Court Center, and I know in my discussion with you, Greg, you mentioned that it really doesn't take a lot to have a squealing tire in there because of the surface that.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I just want to comment,
corners.
as I was walking over here this morning, that there was a car that came into the parking garage underneath the annex building, and as the car was just turning to go out, the tires squealed.
Yeah.
And it was just on the concrete surface. So, the car was just creeping. So I think for us to, you know, let people know that just because you hear squealing tires doesn't mean people are peeling out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good point, and there's, of course, the whole thing's made up of turns, even in and out of spaces is turning in and out, and when people do that, and it amplifies through the parking structure itself, when it comes out, it sounds like you're having some races up and down the ramps, but it's really not the case, and I know our police department's been watching that very carefully. They've enhanced patrols there and done different things, so we can't catch everything, but we are certainly, you know, watching, and we don't see any, we see some people parking in there that maybe might be an issue, but not racing. Yes. Well, thank you. We'll designate that, and I'm sure that'll also make the businesses happy that we've taken that step to support them. We also have the 2020 annual report, which of course you received copies of. The 2020 annual Community Redevelopment Agency annual report has a lot of good information in, has some beautiful pictures right up front of the board, and a lot of good wording on the purposes and the boundary maps and the history of the CRA. A lot of good information in the report. They've done a very good job on that. Urban Designs worked on that and done a great job, as well as the financial numbers. Of course, one of the things that you can see is in 2020, the change from the prior year, we had 10.22% increase in the TIF contributions, which took us up to 2.1 million. I believe we owe about 12 million in debt still on that property, so the CRA in general, the value, base value, and the TIF value above that base value. So we have some in reserve to make sure we could offset any lean years, but we're looking at closing in, of course, in at least the next 10 years and getting that debt completely paid off for the CRA. So we're very pleased that we've seen the increase in revenues, which of course indicates an increase in overall property value in the CRA that we're very pleased to see in 2020. Again, a lot of good information in there. You can look at the fund balances and our assets and liabilities, our balance sheets, and we have some nice information there also on tenants that we've had in there. And of course, it also summarizes the activity in the marinas. and some of the things that have been done as far as wayfinding, rebranding, the Laishley Park Playground, Laishley Park Playground, Herald Center, different things that we've been able to accomplish in the CRA in the past year. And of course, a lot of that goes to the efforts that have been done by not only the CRA board and what you've helped facilitate, but also the staff, Public Works, Urban Design, Police, everyone that's worked on this, including the prior manager you can see in the front, because this is up until October, and of course, Howard Koenig was here at the time also, and everyone working together has accomplished a lot, and we hope to continue to enhance that and move forward with a lot more projects coming to completion. So that should do it for now.
Any questions for the city manager? Thank you to everyone on staff for putting that document together. That's very comprehensive, and it really is informative for people who don't know a lot about what a CRA actually is. And I think it's very helpful to, to put all that information in one place. Okay. Okay, next we have approval of the minutes from the March 3rd meeting.
Move approval of my minutes from the last regular meeting.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from the regular meeting of March 3, 2021. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next, we have the invoice for iCard Merrill for services rendered. Need a motion for approval.
I move we pay that bill.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the invoice for iCard Merrill for services rendered. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, commissioner comments. Mr. Council?
None?
Okay, Mr. Cummings?
No, thank you.
Mrs. Prafke?
None, just a good report, Greg, thank you.
Mrs. Carey?
No?
Mr. Dryberg?
Glad to see the bucket, so I'm happy.
We should have a fundraising thing
We
for
should.
that. I think that would be a really good idea, actually.
I'll do it.
Yeah.
I'm sure we could do something fun with that. That would really be a cool thing to do. Okay.
Really wet. I'm there, I'll do it.
The realtors dump on you.
Oh, I'll do it, yeah.
Maybe the first bucket dump could be dollar bills or $100.
Yeah. We can come up with something really cool for that. We could start thinking,
Sponsorships.
you're good with creativity.
All right,
Yeah,
okay.
start coming up with something. That would be fun.
Okay.
Okay, we have no other agenda items, so CRA is adjourned. And we will reconvene as the city council. All right, we are reconvened as city council. The first thing on the agenda is the consent agenda, and I will pull the three proclamations that are on there. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to pull? Okay. I would entertain a motion for approval minus the three proclamations.
Motion for approval minus the three.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda minus the three proclamations. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, so very briefly, I will read the proclamations into the record as we discussed earlier. The first is for Donate Life Month. Proclamation for the City of Punta Gorda, Florida. Whereas one of the most meaningful gifts a human being can bestow upon another is the gift of life. And whereas more than 39,000 Americans receive a life-saving organ transplant every year. And whereas a new patient is added to the National Patient Waiting List for an organ transplant every 10 minutes. And whereas more than 108,000 men, women, and children are currently on the national waiting list for organ transplantation, of which approximately 5,000 are in the West and Southwest Florida area. And whereas an average of 22 people die every day awaiting an organ transplant. And whereas one organ, tissue, and eye donor can save or enhance the lives of as many as 75 people. Whereas everyone is a potential organ, eye, and tissue donor and can register their wish to save lives through organ and tissue donation at www.donatelifeflorida.org or on their driver's license. Now therefore, the City Council of the City of Punta Gorda, Florida, does hereby proclaim the month of April 2021 as Donate Life Month and encourages all citizens to consider giving life through organ donation and to sign up on Florida's Organ and Tissue Donor Registry by visiting the website or when renewing their driver's license or identification card. Passed and duly adopted this 7th day of April 2021, signed Lynn Matthews, Mayor. And the next one is for Water Conservation Month. Whereas water is a basic and essential need of every living creature, and whereas the State of Florida Water Management Districts and the City of Punta Gorda work together to increase awareness about the importance of water conservation, and whereas April is typically a dry month when water demands are most acute, therefore it has been designated by the City of Punta Gorda and the State of Florida as Florida's Water Conservation Month to educate citizens about how they can help save Florida's precious water resources. And whereas the City of Punta Gorda has always encouraged and supported water conservation through various programs and events, and whereas every business, industry, school, and citizen can make a difference by saving and conserving water, thereby promoting a healthy economy and community. Now therefore, the City Council of the City of Punta Gorda, Florida, does hereby proclaim the month of April as Water Conservation Month and calls upon each citizen and business to help protect this precious resource by practicing water-saving measures and becoming more aware of the need to save water. Passed and duly adopted this 7th day of April 2021, signed Lynn R. Matthews, Mayor. And finally, we have a proclamation for the Military Heritage Museum Volunteer Appreciation Day. Whereas the Military Heritage Museum was founded in 2001 by veterans who have served the museum since that time, and whereas the Military Heritage Museum currently has over 90 volunteers, 72 who are veterans of the United States military, and whereas those volunteers are instrumental in delivering the Military Heritage Museum's education-based mission, and whereas the month of April is National Volunteer Appreciation Month, and whereas the Military Heritage Museum will hold its annual Volunteer Appreciation Breakfast on Saturday, April 10, 2021. Now therefore, the City Council of the City of Punta Gorda, Florida, does hereby proclaim April 10, 2021 as Military Heritage Museum Volunteer Appreciation Day, passed and duly adopted in regular session this 7th day of April 2021. Signed, Lynn R. Matthews, Mayor. Thank you for indulging me on those. Okay. So, we move on, and the next agenda item is for the award, for the budget, sorry, award of agreement to Allen, Norton, and Blue.
Good morning, Ann Heinen, Procurement.
Good morning.
The agreement for Allen Norton is for at-will services for our Human Resources Department. They currently have our current contract, and it expired at the end of March, mid-end of March. So Human Resources, they are happy with the services that they have provided in the past and requested procurement to negotiate a new contract with them. We have done so, and the contract will be for a 5-year period. Staff recommends approval of the 5-year contract with Allen, Norton, and Blue.
And was there a reason that the contract was allowed to lapse? Were you concerned that it wasn't, that they weren't satisfactory, or was it just a?
No, not at all. It was a glitch in our system, notification system.
Okay.
A date entered where a system that we have automatically notifies us within a certain amount of time to renew a contract. So
Okay.
it was absolutely not that at all.
Okay, thank you.
And they've been very responsive.
Yes, absolutely. The department is very happy with their
Well,
services.
I thought they had been, and I
Yes.
couldn't imagine why a lapse in the contract then. Okay, thank you.
I'll move approval.
Second.
We have a
Second.
motion. I thought we had two, I think we had 2 seconds. I don't-
sorry.
I'm not sure.
I can't
That's why I got,
I
what?
cannot hear Councilmember Cummings.
No.
I absolutely cannot hear him.
My apologies. Okay, we have a motion and 2 seconds to approve the agreement with Allen, Norton, and Blue. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
And next, we have the award of amendment number 5 to provide engineering services for the wastewater treatment plant.
Again, Ann Heinen Procurement, for the record. Staff is recommending approval of Amendment 5 to CDM Smith, Inc. A proposal was negotiated with CDM Smith using the master contract for the wastewater treatment plant improvements. The improvements are based on an assessment that was previously done and completed by CDM Smith. The department and procurement negotiated the contract, the authorization with CDM Smith. The total cost will be for design of construction plans, CMAR, which is Construction Manager at Risk, coordination, permitting, bidding assistance, and assistance with obtaining grant funds for the construction. The total cost is $2,944,334.00. This is primarily a lump sum agreement. There was a certain component of the contract that we asked for a not to exceed amount because procurement and the department are confident that we'll be able to negotiate the CMAR fees. When we previously did the RO plant, the engineer was involved in those negotiations, and we did have that in place just in case we do need that assistance. If not, it'll be a service that is not to exceed, so it won't be used. After the design phase, the only other authorizations that would be provided to the contractor, to the engineer would be done under a separate authorization for construction monitoring and for grant compliance during the construction period. So those are the only other funds, and we don't have an estimate for that at this point.
Okay. Any questions for Ann?
And this is a budgeted project.
Thank you, yes, that's always important. We definitely like to make sure that that's the case in all of these. No questions?
No, it's an important project.
It is, it's very important to the future development for the city.
I move approval.
A second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the award of amendment number 5 to CDM Smith for the wastewater treatment plant. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
If I may, in the way of commentary, we are very pleased with their services also and feel like they have the expertise we need to really move this project forward efficiently. So we're fortunate to be able to keep them on board.
Cool. Okay. We have no unfinished business. We have no new business. Recommendation from city officers. City manager.
I have two things. One, I would like to discuss position vacancies that we have. Obviously, as you know better than I, we've had two positions in the past that handled our paralegal, legal support type positions, and then also the executive functions of the city manager's office. We've had the luxury in the recent past of having someone that, when they came to the city manager's office, also had paralegal experience. And one of those positions was eliminated in the interest of budgetary savings as we went through a recessionary period. The luxury that we've had for that person is expiring because that person will no longer be in the office in another 30 days. Thank you very much. But so we've had to take this opportunity actually to really look at where we are and where we're going with these positions. We've had a substantial amount of increase in the tasks that need to be accomplished through the city manager's office and through our legal assistant, not the least of which has been evaluating operating impacts of our various operations, project completion, small business support, a lot of annexation potential that we're working on in the office, strategic planning, how everything ties together when we look at our pro forma as we move forward in the next 5 years. And with the legal side, of course, when we look at the annexation potential, when we look at the contracts for the projects, when we're looking at all these different things that need reviewed, contracts especially are a word-for-word type review, because I believe shall versus may might make a big difference if it's not caught. And of course, we have an attorney that does a stellar job at that, but the more support that we can provide for our legal counsel, the less time it takes our legal counsel to actually provide the support to the city. And of course, I can't formally say that that would reduce the cost any, but, and I'm joking when I say that, but certainly the more support we can provide, the less work or the more work that can be accomplished by our legal counsel to move things forward. So what we really need now, given the fact that almost like our police calls that we've seen in the last year, the number of calls for service, and that service can be anything from internal departments to external customers that we have, coming through our office is going up dramatically. The initiatives that we intend to accomplish, being able to move from a rebuilding, reducing, and recovery phase that we had after Charlie and have really gone through in the last 15 to 17 years to now maintaining what we have and improving our assets and expanding our initiatives so that we can move forward and accomplish a substantial amount of things that are on the table as goals for the council, goals for staff, and of course for the city manager's office. We need the support to be available to do that and not just maintain status quo where we are. So with that, we've split the two positions into the executive assistant position, which is going to take on a lot more responsibility they don't currently have, and a legal assistant, the legal and administrative assistant. In order to do that, budgetarily this year, we need about $34,000 minus a little bit of savings we'll have for the next 6 months in salaries, which will be about $30,000 plus or minus. And then, of course, next year, when we look at our total budgetary proposal on some of the personnel and initiatives that we'll need to see in the budget and how we fund those, whether it's one-time money for the first year, phasing that into full-time budgetary support with our millage rate in subsequent years, and looking at that 5-year plan where we need to go, we would phase that position in as part of our budgetary presentations to the council. So what I'm asking for is approval of the monies so that we can support this position, so that we can get this position advertised and get it back in-house as quickly as possible, given that we are losing staff and we need to accomplish a substantial amount of things, not the least of which is the legal reviews that position currently accomplishes.
I wasn't intending to say anything, but the humorous remark regarding fees, I think, is worthy of some response. We have had we've had the blessing of having a paralegal that is extraordinary, and the work that she has done has saved me from doing some of the work that otherwise would be billed clearly at a higher rate. So by having someone who can try to fit into Mikhail's shoes would be a benefit, not only from the standpoint of efficiency, but sincerely from the standpoint of overall legal costs.
Nancy? I would like to just go on the record as reiterating and complimenting Mikhail on the years that I have served on council and all of the support and dedication that she's given, and the just superior level of work. And yet I have seen over the course of the time I've served the volume of work increasing, and I know myself, I have expressed a frustration with what's taken so long to get something back to council. And as I've had conversation with Greg, it's really the volume of work that is on the table to get to it, and they can only do so much. We all only have so much bandwidth. And so I think as the level of activity at the city has increased, and we need to continue to provide that high level of service that our residents and businesses have become accustomed to. And I think it's important for us, as Greg has come into this position, he's able to take a look at things with an objective view and to determine how can we continue to keep moving the city forward. And so I've discussed this with a number of residents and asked, what do you think? And without doubt, I mean, with 100% support, they've said, we need to go forward and do this. So I just want to share that and express my support for what you've recommended.
Thank you.
I would agree with that, and, you know, I was a volunteer for 12 years before I got on council. Opportunities to interface with Mikhail over the years, even when she was back in the city clerk's office. And honestly, you'd be hard-pressed to find somebody who wasn't more dedicated than that. And quite honestly, she's just been invaluable, and she filled in both of those job positions as I don't think that was originally the intent, was it would be a permanent thing, but she has filled those shoes for a long time, and you're absolutely right. The amount of work that comes out of that desk is just incredible, and she's always got a smile on her face, and it's going to be hard to replace her as a single person. So I think we have to go back to pre-2008 when the economy tanked and start staffing up a little bit where we have the need to do that. This is one of those areas. And what we end up maybe saving somehow in some legal expenses by having a full-time paralegal on board may also somewhat offset some of the costs of what this is going to cost us. So I would totally support it as well. Anyone else? John?
Just a question on the numbers. You said that the changeover would cost $34,000 in the current budget, is that correct?
In the next 6 months,
In the
yes.
next 6 months. There was some savings also you mentioned, or not?
Simply savings from replacing Mikhail's position at a lower salary level, because of course she's been in that position
And
for
it's
quite some time.
$34,000
30
to this budget.
30 plus or minus if you take that out, yes.
Okay. And then a potential of maybe saving a little legal counsel time too.
Let me, I'll explain that. It's not that my time will be reduced, but without someone reviewing documents and doing the initial review of drafts, that will require me to do that work instead, which is more time at a higher rate than what the paralegal could do. So it wouldn't necessarily reduce existing legal expenses, but it would prevent an increase in those legal expenses by having someone as capable as Mikhail in doing that preliminary work before it comes to me.
And that's especially since we're increasing the number of contracts that we have as we move projects forward more quickly. We're getting more things done. We have higher level requirements, so that's just more and more for that person to review. And in the interim, other things just get, put by the wayside. And not to mention that I'm by no means a slave driver, but I do have some high expectations of what we're able to accomplish that's coming out of that office. And we have a good team there, and it's all hands on deck. And we have a lot of things that we want to be able to provide the council in the way of support and information so that we can continue to move things forward.
Any other comments? Okay, do we have a consensus for city manager to go forward with this? Okay.
Thank you very much, and I'd like to just reflect for a moment. I appreciate the comments that were made, and I know everyone shares that sentiment that Mikhail has done a great job, and she is certainly has a list of things that can still be accomplished, and if she makes it through the next month, we're trying to, we'll certainly need to have someone that can hit the ground running and continue to accomplish these things. And I appreciate your comments, David, also, and her competency and everything she's helped do in the time she's been in the position. I certainly have seen that since I've been here. So, thank you.
I thank you as well.
The only other thing is informational. Just wanted to provide information on one of the emergency ordinances that, of course, you enacted that will expire April 30, which is the mandatory mask ordinance in the city of Punta Gorda. That expiration will happen at the end of this month. Of course, the governor's emergency order back some time ago state of emergency expired concurrent with that. His state of emergency is really based now on a continuation so that federal funding can flow through and get down to the local agencies, specifically under state of emergency. But obviously, the governor has opened up everything as far as business-wise under his purview. And certainly, when we look at our vaccination records and the availability of that, it's going from age 40 to age 18 in 7 days. And we have a lot of availability we're seeing now, even as you've seen in some of our daily and weekly reports, that people that do want to be vaccinated have that opportunity. And of course, unfortunately, we've had some immunity that is at least temporarily there through people that have had COVID itself. So we're finding that there are more people that are intend to not wear the mask in various locations. And of course, we don't have enforcement authority to change that in any manner. So it does put our police officers and our staff in a difficult position in some cases when people are watching that. But certainly it will expire at the end of the month, and unless we have that on the agenda before then, that will expire, and we'll move forward with certainly encouraging it, and in our facilities we'll still have those requirements in place. So that's just information so that you can consider that in the next couple weeks, and then we'll move forward from there.
Any comments on that? Okay. All right. City Attorney.
I anticipate having a quarterly report for you on the next agenda. That's all I have today.
Okay, thank you. City Clerk.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Not afternoon, morning.
And it's still very early morning. This is good.
Love it. Okay, just some board and committee things. Starting with the vacancies, we have 2 alternates on the Board of Zoning Appeals, 2 vacancies on the Donation Review Committee. We have 2 3-year terms on the Utility Advisory Board, 1 unexpired term on the Building Board, and 2 4-year terms on the Punta Gorda Housing Authority. Moving to nominations, the first item that we have is the Burnt Store Isles Canal Advisory Committee. So we have 2 nominees for the seat. These are the same 2 individuals that you nominated for another seat on BSI, which is under appointments for this meeting. I would suggest that if you'd like to just combine those 2 items and go ahead and make a motion now to appoint those 2 individuals, since they've already both been nominated for a seat on the board. And we have no other applications as of right now.
I'll nominate both.
Second.
Well, I would like a motion to actually appoint them.
Oh, I will make a motion to appoint both of the individuals to the Burnt Store Isles.
Mr. Milne and Mr. Perkins.
Mr. Milne and Mr. Perkins to the, to the Burnt Store Isles Canal Advisory Committee.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to appoint Ian Milne and David Perkins to the Burnt Store Isles Canal Advisory Committee. Any further comments? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously.
Thank you. Next, under nominations, for the Firefighters Pension Board, we have 2 eligible applicants for nomination for 1 seat.
Nominate all.
Second.
No motion for that is needed, thank you. For the General Employees Pension Board, we have 2 eligible applicants for nomination for 1 seat.
Nominate all.
Thank you. Continuing under nominations, for the 2 alternate seats on the Historic Preservation Advisory Board, we have 3 eligible applicants for nomination.
Nominate all.
Thank you. Nominations again. Last, we do have 2 eligible applicants for nomination for the Utility Advisory Board seat.
Nominate all.
Okay, moving on to appointments then.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So you're voting for one of these individuals for a seat on the Historic Preservation Advisory Board? I'll come collect them when you're, everybody ready?
Yes.
Hey, hey,
Well, we know he is math challenged.
Well, he's gonna have so much more to do now without Michaela.
That, I still laugh about that. I still laugh about that every time I think about it.
I am glad I could be the bunt of your.
You laughed too, are you
I don't
kidding?
think
Everybody
math-
laughed that day. That was really funny.
Math is not a law school subject,
No, it is
obviously.
No, it wasn't a requirement.
Okay, and the person with the most votes is Beth Magden, and she has been appointed to the board.
Thank you.
Thank you, that's all I have.
Thank you. Okay, under policy and legislation, I have a couple quick things. You all received an email this morning, but I'll just put it on the record that as of this morning, there are vaccines available at the Charlotte Harbor Event and Conference Center for anyone over the age of 18. You can go there and get a vaccine anytime today. That's a new thing that just happened this morning. And we got a notification a couple of days ago from our lobbyist, Jerry Paul, that the House and Senate released their first draft of budget documents. And I'll quote him, it says, "It's a very difficult year for appropriations projects. Very pleased to be listed so far in the House bill for $500,000. So we're still on the list for the Boca Grande Drainage Project. It's been cut in half, but it's a start. And hopefully, we'll keep it going. Keep your fingers crossed. And that's all I have. So we'll go to council member comments. Jaha?
Oh, well, something cool. I just got appointed to the Florida Freight Advisory Committee. So just really to promote our area as a multimodal, intermodal area from that for FDOT. So we'll have meetings at some point in the future.
And how did this transpire?
Just applied a few months ago and they just told me yes, and then yes, so it'll, when it meets, it meets.
Great. Represent us well.
We'll look forward to reports. Okay.
Yeah.
Nancy?
I don't have anything more today. Thank you.
Okay. Debbie?
I don't either.
John?
Oh, a little something. This last week, we received an email from one of our residents, Rick Karsegian. I say that right, I didn't say his name right. And he discussed the speed of boat traffic in our canals, and that is totally out of control again, or still, I think the right thing is to say. And he came up with a sort of interesting idea of making a maximum speed limit in our canals of 5 miles an hour. And as you think about it, it makes a lot of sense that a lot of people understand, where you don't always understand something like no wake or idle speed or steerage or things like that. So I'm asking the council to discuss this issue and to put it on the agenda and discuss it to see if we can add this idea to our ordinance on the speeds in the canals.
Nancy?
I don't believe that speed itself is a determinant. I know that in our canals in Burnt Star Isles, we have problems with people that are creating excessive wake. But to put a number on it, I just don't feel you can put a specific number as to what the miles per hour or knots, or whatever, is, because different vessels might require, and different conditions might require a variation in the speed. And I know that there is the Florida, not department, I don't know what department it is, defines it as that you, if you are traveling and you slow down and your vessel sinks back into the water, then you were going too fast.
Right.
And that's the best definition that I've been able to find. So a minimum wake or low speed is really just going enough to maintain steerage but not create wake. So I
Lynn?
Yes, I'm sorry.
I hate to bring this up, but we discussed this ad nauseum when when the ordinance was before us. And we were told by our police chief, who I would consider to be an expert in all things enforceable, that this was not enforceable because we don't have a marine police force. And, you know, to me, it looks like we're just putting one more thing into place that we can't enforce. And how does that help the city?
John?
Okay, to get back at that, and I still would like to see it on the agenda for a full review again, but people have a lot of trouble figuring out how fast to go. But people understand 5 miles an hour, and in almost all cases, and I agree with what Nancy said, there are special conditions when it'll be different. But the norm is that people know what 5 miles an hour is. Their boat knows what it is. It's almost everybody has a GPS. And if you're going over 5 miles an hour, you're probably going too fast. And we depend a lot in Punta Gorda on ourselves, policing ourselves. And if we understand what we need to do, we might be more likely to do it than if we don't understand what no wake or slow speed means. To Debbie's concern, I'm not expecting a great change in what the police does here but they could, just like they do with traffic, they could put up from time to time a traffic watch, or whatever we want to call it, trap, and have another person with a radar gun and a cop on a boat down the road saying, okay, this guy's going too fast or whatever. So it is possible, at least you have a mechanism to do it if you need to do it.
I respectfully have to disagree with you. My boat, if I went 5 miles an hour, I'd be in neutral. We go by RPMs because we have to keep the boat in forward momentum in order to have steerage. 5 miles an hour, I will have no steerage whatsoever on my boat.
Okay, we can argue this all over. I mean, I've been
Right,
a boat your
let me
size
finish,
and
let me
bigger.
finish. What I'm saying is, I'm not sure we have the authority to make that change. First of all, I believe Fish and Wildlife has some say-so on what happens with the speed limits in the canals, because they oversee the waterways overall. And I don't know any place that has a mile per hour gauge on speed in a canal system or any waterway. I've never seen that, ever.
Agree.
I don't think I don't even know how you would enforce it. First of all, we only have one marine officer out on the harbor patrolling, and all of our 55 miles of canals. We don't have a police force that can enforce anything, and it's all complaint driven anyway. They have to see it before they can do anything about it. So I hate to I'm not saying we shouldn't have a discussion about it if you want to have a discussion, but honestly, I don't think we should pursue it, because I just think it's going to be futile. There's not going to be any different outcome from it, in my opinion. I don't see it happening. Any other comments? It's just my personal opinion. I mean, I know from personal experience that my boat will not even go in forward at 5 miles an hour. It just won't. It takes too much to get a 30,000-pound boat to move forward.
I
guess what I would say is that any council member can ask for something to be put on an agenda.
Right, I agree.
And so for that, I just, but I think, you know how we feel, so
Yeah.
I'll just say that.
Okay. Okay, well, we have no other agenda items, so we are